yes. If you're looking for an answer to the title of the video, the answer is yes. Cool. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you guys. All the best, and I'll catch you on the next one. No. The answer to a question like this is a little bit more nuanced than meets the eye. To my knowledge, there's no universally accepted award for legendary status that's given out to players that certifies this notion, unless a statue of you is built outside the stadium. Then it's likely that it's a bit more clear-cut. Nonetheless, these opinions really come down to subjectivity. I was doing a bit of lurking in the Liverpool subreddit when writing up this video and stumbled upon a post from 2015 asking this very same question. Naturally, the answers varied somewhat, but one answer more or less encapsulated exactly how I've always personally felt about scenarios like this one. This user states, "I would say that Luis Suárez is a football legend that played at Liverpool. When his career is over, some may think of him as a Liverpool legend because of what he's done in his career and the attachment that we all had to him. The man may have been a biter, but he was our biter." That final sentence really makes the comment for me. And considering the fact that his peak, both in terms of trophies and in terms of individual success, were earned in another team's colours, it's hard to argue against this comment. Having said that, the years that he gave to Liverpool were absolutely unreal, especially towards the end of his spell with the club. Every week, he did things I'd literally never seen before. The nutmegs, the ruthlessness, it was ridiculous. And believe me, I should know. He was the captain of my fantasy Premier League team all the way through the 2013-14 season. I even captained him against Norwich. I still didn't win that year, but the story isn't about me. Legend or not, that's for you to decide. And hopefully this video can help you in doing just that. So, how good was Luis Suárez for Liverpool? And is he a Liverpool legend? Yo, what's going on guys? Trust you're all doing well and smashing it today. We've got a great one coming up. We're going to be taking a brief look at the early life and career of El Pistolero and paying close attention to his time at Anfield. A man who always had an insatiable hunger for the game. A man whose appetite for football was unrivaled. A man who was always chomping at the bits to score goals. Okay, I'll stop now. Be sure to leave a like if you like the video, as it massively helps the channel out, but only if you want to, that is. No pressure. Okay, let's hop right in. Born in 1987 in Salto, Uruguay, Suárez was one of 7 boys in his family. When he was 7 years old, his family moved to Montevideo, and it was here that he truly began his footballing journey, playing for Ureta FC. By most accounts, he's described as being a quiet, relaxed, respectful kid in his youth. Knowing what we know now, this is something that many may contest today. However, he was also described as being crafty, maybe a little bit more in line with current perceptions. His performances on the pitch really did reflect that. Skillful, graceful on the ball, quick, a joy to watch all round. But he also had a mean streak to him. There was a determination to win at all costs. However, this mentality, understandably, came with a spat of ill discipline. There's even a story from when he was 15 playing for the Nacional youth team, one of the top teams in Uruguay. He reportedly headbutted a referee after a bad call, obviously leading to a red card. The man was crazy, but he was also crazy good. Now, growing up, Luis Suárez's family was not well off. In fact, they were categorically quite poor, and his family life was filled with highs and lows. His father abandoned him and his family at a young age, his mother scrubbed floors to make a living and take care of 7 children, and he couldn't afford football boots, having to borrow on several occasions. He apparently even missed out on several trials for a few top Uruguayan teams due to simply not having boots. The culmination of all of these aspects led to Suárez eventually losing his way in his early teen years. Drinking, staying out late, skipping training. His coaches even had to drag him to practice at times. Things were not looking all that great. However, ultimately, Suárez's story and his adventure into European football was one motivated by love. At 15 years of age, he met a girl that changed his ways and eventually became his wife and life partner, Sofia Balbi. It sounds corny, but that truly seems to be what kickstarted this whole thing. She motivated him to work hard and work diligently towards his goals, something he's eternally grateful for. Unfortunately, her family moved to Barcelona when Suárez was 16, leaving him alone in Uruguay. Determined to battle his way back to her, he made a point of focusing his efforts on improving to somehow find a way to be closer. Now, imagine for a second that you have no idea who Luis Suárez is or what he's become. He's just some kid from Uruguay, right? Surely this dream, regardless of the motivation, would be near impossible unless somehow aided by extreme luck. Well, in the wise words of Lucius Seneca, a Roman philosopher, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. In the 2005-06 season of the Primera Division Uruguaya, Uruguay's first division, he helped Nacional to the league title, scoring 10 goals in 27 matches. He was about 19 years of age at this point. Coincidentally, after this season, Dutch side Groningen flew their technical directors out to Uruguay to scout a player by the name of Elias Figueroa. Although, all due respect to Mr. Figueroa, this doesn't really matter. The main takeaway here is that the player they were scouting was not Luis Suárez. In a Nacional match they were watching, Suárez impressed so much that these representatives immediately rang their head coach back home and informed him of their decision to purchase Suárez on the spot, signing him for £720,000. I guess when you know, you know. So at this point in the story, Suárez has arrived in the Netherlands and he's finally reunited with his girlfriend. As a matter of fact, they ended up living together in Groningen shortly after his arrival. While that in itself is an incredible story, he did have a bit of a hard time in the beginning of his Dutch journey though. He arrived to training overweight and couldn't speak a word of English or Dutch. However, his willingness to learn each language, coupled with his efforts to lose weight, showed everyone what kind of a player and person they picked up. Determined, hard-working, relentless. In the 2006-07 season of the Eredivisie, he scored 10 goals and made 6 assists in 29 appearances. Not bad at all for a first season in a foreign league, and Ajax certainly felt the same way. At the end of the season, they signed him up for £6.75 million. There was a bit of nasty business where Ajax had their first bid rejected and Suárez tried to take matters into his own hands though. It's never an easy road with this guy, as we'll find out. Before we continue, I just want to draw all your attention to a quote by the legendary Frank de Boer when speaking on Luis Suárez. I believe this quote perfectly encapsulates everything that Luis Suárez is all about. In this interview, de Boer states he wants to score, score, score. It doesn't matter how. If he has to cheat or something like that, it doesn't matter. It's so important to win and to score a lot of goals. He couldn't cope with losing. That winning spirit is in his blood, especially on the pitch. He was a good example for everybody. Dennis Bergkamp was a little bit the same. It's not cheating, but it's how far the referee will allow you to go. That last line in particular is quite an interesting one. Despite Suárez being a young player, this quote more or less sums up the demeanor that we've all witnessed him exhibit on the pitch since his early days. Further to that, expanding on his abilities on the pitch, he was simply phenomenal. He had the dribbling skills to beat defenders, the pace to get past them, the intelligence to time his runs to perfection, and the work rate to consistently track back in defense. What was even more impressive was his ability to score a wide range of goals. Headers, free kicks, long-range shots, tap-ins, left foot, right foot, volley. He had it all in his locker. Adding on to that, his selflessness in front of goal was incredibly rare considering his goal-scoring abilities. Long story short, he was a great example of a complete forward, minus the discipline, which we'll get to. Over the next 3 seasons at Ajax, he only got better and better, scoring a ridiculous 74 goals with 46 assists in 97 appearances in the league. That's 1.23 goal contributions per match for about 100 matches. If that doesn't give you an idea of the talent we're dealing with, I don't really know what will. In this period, he won the Ajax Player of the Year award twice, the Eredivisie Golden Boot, and the Eredivisie itself in the 2009-2010 season. And by the way, in this title-winning season, he scored 35 goals with 17 assists in 31 appearances. However, his brilliance was sometimes overshadowed by his petulance. In a nutshell, he received 42 yellow cards and 1 red card over his Ajax career. He committed what he refers to as the save of the tournament against Ghana in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, blatantly using his hands to stop a goal-bound shot, and finally, he bit Otman Bakal on the shoulder in a match against PSV, leading to a 7-match ban. Why has he done that? Despite all of this, what he brought to the pitch was well worth the controversy, so much so that in 2011, several top teams were lining up to sign him. Meanwhile, in Merseyside, Liverpool were going through a bit of a controversy themselves. There'd been long-standing rumours that Fernando Torres, Liverpool's prime talisman at the time, was set to leave the club. Long story short, Chelsea offered Liverpool £40 million, which was rejected. Fernando Torres handed in an official transfer request, which was also rejected, and eventually Chelsea offered an estimated £50 million for him, which made Torres the most expensive player in British football history. This deal was accepted on the 31st of January 2011. On the very same day, Liverpool signed Luis Suárez. As a matter of fact, Suárez was Liverpool's very own record signing at the time, signing for £22.8 million. That is until that record was broken once more that very same day by a man who would go on to be the greatest Liverpool player of all time, Andy Carroll. Now, by many accounts, Suárez would have been signed regardless of the Torres transfer. In reality, he was brought in to play the second striker role alongside Torres rather than as his replacement. His debut for the club really couldn't have gone much better, coming off the bench late in a match against Stoke to score the second goal in a 2-0 win. Better yet, it was in front of the Kop end. Having said that, the remainder of the season was rather mild by his standards. Having played half a season for Ajax and half a season for Liverpool, it's understandable that he didn't achieve much consistency. For the 2010-11 season, he scored 16 goals and made 16 assists in all competitions. And just remember, this was one of his worst seasons to date. Now, it's important to note Liverpool's situation at this period of time. Saying that this team was not as strong as it had previously been would be an understatement. The defense was struggling and leaking goals, and the midfield was being overrun and failing at their creative responsibilities. Suárez, being the industrious player that he was, ended up taking far more responsibility than he really should have been doing on the pitch, and this showed in his statistics going into the next season, as they did nothing but drop. Adding on to that, he didn't have a consistent strike partner, with Dirk Kuyt, Andy Carroll, and even Maxi Rodriguez filling in at different times. In his first full season in the league, he only scored 11 goals in 31 appearances, a record low. These performances produced articles like this, calling his overall ability into question. As a side note, regardless of hindsight, this article is ridiculous. There's even a point where they compare Suárez's scoring ability to Peter Odemwingie. What? Anyway, aside from his performances, his other on-field antics were landing him in quite a bit of hot water. You guys remember the disciplinary problems and general controversial behavior we previously spoke about? Yeah, that didn't seem to go away. He flipped the bird to the opposing fans on live television following a 1-0 loss to Fulham, and he was charged with throwing racial slurs at Patrice Evra in a draw against Manchester United. For the latter, he received a £40,000 fine and an 8-match ban. All the same, he denied the claims and Liverpool as a club backed him vehemently, which I guess makes sense. He was the talisman and they have an obligation to protect him. Now, I don't want to focus too much on the story as it's already been covered in great detail by various outlets and I'm sure everyone has an opinion. What I will say is that since then, a fair few Liverpool players and people who surrounded the club at the time have come out and admitted that they thought Suárez to be guilty but supported him regardless. It's a shame, really. So I'd like to pose a question to you all. If the player that committed these transgressions was of less importance to the club, do you think he would have received the same support? I'm not trying to start anything, I'm just a bit curious to know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Moving along, the very next season he rekindled his goal-scoring form, netting 23 in 33 appearances with 5 assists, an improvement from previous years for sure. Finally, he was showing the Anfield faithful what he was capable of. That is until he beat Branislav Ivanovic in a match against Chelsea late in the season. Why has he done that? VAR didn't exist back then, so Suárez remained on the pitch, and what's worse, Liverpool were 1 goal down for a large portion of the match, and Suárez scored an equaliser in the 97th minute. These actions led to a 10-match ban and a fine of an undisclosed amount. Heck, even David Cameron got involved. But we're not done with this saga yet. After receiving huge backlash for just about all of his previous wrongdoings, in combination with Liverpool's failure to qualify for the Champions League, Suárez announced that he would be seeking an exit from the club. As the story goes, a vaguely worded clause in Suárez's contract led him and his team to believe that his release clause was valued at roughly £40 million. This prompted Arsenal's, quite frankly, meme-worthy bid of £40 million and £1 at the end of the 2012-2013 season. Quite literally the definition of cheeky from Arsene Wenger. Instead, this clause merely stated that £40 million was the price at which negotiations would be allowed to start for the player. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that this bid was rejected. In any case, Suárez appeared to do a complete 180 only 1 week after Arsenal's bid was rejected, stating that the support that he was receiving from the fans was enough to sway him. Quite a wild ride, I know, but we're not done yet. So that brings us to the 2013-14 season of the Premier League. At the start of the season, Suárez was still seeing out the last 5 games of his ban for biting, so we had to wait it out. However, when he returned, he came back with a vengeance, scoring twice on his first game back. The guy was honestly ridiculous this season, quite possibly the best individual season by any player in Premier League history. Even his discipline had improved, as he wasn't involved in any notable controversies this season. He did blatantly admit to diving against Stoke to win a penalty, but that really is mild by his standards. All in all, he won the Premier League Player of the Season award as well as the Golden Boot, scoring 31 goals in the league in 33 appearances. In doing so, he equaled the Premier League goal-scoring record at the time, held by Cristiano Ronaldo and Alan Shearer. Moreover, Suárez provided 12 assists this season, culminating in a goal contribution rate of 1.3 per match. By comparison, in a 38-game season, out of all the players that have scored 30 or more goals in a single season in the Premier League, Suárez ranks above everyone else. By some distance too. A subtle reminder that he missed the first 5 games of this season. Although, despite these ridiculous numbers, and despite the fact that Liverpool were leading the pack for the majority of the season, they slipped down the table and lost out on the Premier League by just 2 points. This would turn out to be Suárez's last season in Liverpool colours, as he went on to sign for Barcelona for £75 million in the summer of 2014. But not before, well, I guess making sure he left Liverpool with a parting memory. In what turned out to be his third offence, he bit Giorgio Chiellini in the shoulder in a group match of the 2014 World Cup between Uruguay and Italy. Why has he done that? What's worse, Uruguay ended up winning the match and advancing to the knockout stages at the expense of Italy. Now, justice was retroactively served though, but only for Suárez. Italy remained knocked out. Suárez ended up with a 4-month ban from all football-related activities, a 9-match international game ban, and a roughly £80,000 fine. Now, I just want to stress that he was still a Liverpool player when this happened. All the same, Barca bought him knowing full well that he would be banned for the first leg of the season. And for anyone who doesn't understand why, the reality is, that's how good he was. Okay, so let's address the question posed at the start of this video directly. Is Luis Suárez a Liverpool legend? For this section, let's just for a second ignore his disciplinary problems and downright crazy behavior and focus primarily on his contributions to the team and on-field performances. For this specific case, I guess context is necessary. If we look at Liverpool, a club with a tremendously deep and successful history, the term legend cannot be used lightly. We're talking about putting him in the same company as players like John Barnes, Graham Souness, Steven Gerrard, Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, the list goes on. If you look at each of their careers, perhaps a case can be made that Suárez was better as an individual player than all those I've just mentioned. I personally didn't watch all of them play week in, week out like I did with Suárez, so I can't really comment on that. All the same, he didn't win anything for Liverpool other than the League Cup, and it doesn't seem like he has an innate love for the club like those I've just mentioned. Adding on to that, he only spent 3 years in Merseyside. Having said all of that, if you were a young Liverpool fan growing up when he joined, or just happened to start watching football habitually in 2011, no doubt Suárez will be a legend in your eyes. He likely holds a special place in your heart, and despite his flaws and disciplinary problems, he was on your team when he committed those transgressions. He was your biter. I can definitely understand that argument. Obviously the context is different and these players are not like for like, but the same argument over legendary status, that is, goes for Manchester United fans when Cristiano Ronaldo left for Madrid, Arsenal fans when Fabregas left for Barcelona, or Spurs fans when Bale left for Madrid. They all achieved more after leaving these clubs, and in the same way, for these players, fans are likely split between them being great players that happen to play for their club and being outright club legends. Throw in Suárez's disciplinary problems and you may cause a bit more of a divide. In any case, Suárez was a joy to watch on the pitch during his time in England. He may not have won anything majorly significant and he definitely split opinions while playing in Liverpool, but you have to respect his overall abilities. Legend or not. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about Luis Suárez in the comments below. Love him, hate him, what's the verdict? I do plan on doing a video dedicated to his time in Barcelona and beyond, but maybe we'll save that for later on. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you all and having a great time with this channel. And yeah, stay tuned for more great videos in the future. That's all from me. Wishing you guys a great day ahead. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.